She never chased the spotlight, even though the spotlight chased her family. For years she walked quietly beside history while the world watched her son, building companies, breaking rules, and bending the future. And yet, behind all of that noise, there has always been a steady, thoughtful voice shaped by decades of experience, resilience, beauty, pain, discipline, and deep self-respect. If you listen closely to what Elon Musk's mother has shared over the years, there is a message hidden beneath the elegance, beneath the calm confidence, beneath the photographs and interviews. This is not about fame. This is about becoming unbreakable while remaining graceful. She grew up learning that strength does not need permission. Long before people knew her as Elon Musk's mom, she was learning how to survive in environments that demanded courage without applause. She learned early that life does not ask whether you are ready. It simply arrives, sometimes gently, sometimes violently, and you either grow or you disappear inside fear. She chose growth. Again and again. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Quietly, consistently, with dignity. What she wanted you to hear is this: you do not need to look like everyone else to be worthy. You do not need approval to begin. She has always believed that confidence is built, not gifted. When she walked into rooms where she did not fit the standard, she did not shrink. She adjusted her posture. She stood straighter. She learned more. She refused to apologize for taking up space. Beauty, for her, was never about youth alone. It was about presence. About knowing who you are even when others try to define you by your age, your past, or your circumstances. She lived through years where survival meant making impossible choices. Raising children with limited resources, navigating a life that demanded both emotional and financial resilience, she learned something most people never do: hardship can refine you instead of breaking you. She did not romanticize struggle, but she respected what it teaches. Discipline, patience, endurance. The ability to keep moving when motivation disappears. This is something she passed on, not through speeches, but through example. Children learn more from what you live than from what you say. She wanted you to hear that success is rarely convenient. It does not arrive when everything is comfortable. It often comes while you are tired, doubting yourself, and unsure if anyone notices your effort. She modeled a life where responsibility was not a burden but a calling. When things were hard, she did not ask, "Why me?" She asked, "What now?" That single shift in mindset changes everything. It transforms suffering into strategy. She has always carried herself with an attractiveness that has nothing to do with trends. It is the kind that comes from self-trust. From knowing your values and refusing to betray them for acceptance. She did not compete with younger women. She did not fear aging. She embraced time as an ally. Each year added layers of wisdom, not loss. She wanted you to know that aging does not steal your beauty unless you give it permission. Grace deepens. Confidence matures. Presence intensifies. She also wanted you to hear this truth: you cannot raise strong people by rescuing them from every discomfort. Love does not mean removing all obstacles. Love means preparing someone to face them. She believed in independence, in accountability, in allowing mistakes to teach lessons that words never could. This does not mean coldness. It means faith. Faith that those you love are capable of more than you can protect them from. There were moments when the world misunderstood her son, criticized him, doubted him, mocked him. She did not panic. She had seen this pattern before. Visionaries are rarely celebrated before they are understood. She wanted you to hear that criticism is often a sign you are doing something that matters. Silence usually means you are blending in. She trusted process over praise. She understood that mental strength is built in solitude. In moments when no one is watching. When you choose to show up anyway. When you keep learning even when recognition is absent. She believed in preparation. In mastering your craft quietly until the world has no choice but to notice. And even then, she did not chase validation. She stayed grounded. What makes her attractive is not perfection. It is composure. The calm of someone who has faced chaos and emerged centered. The elegance of someone who knows her worth without shouting it. She wanted you to hear that you do not need to be loud to be powerful. You do not need to dominate to lead. Sometimes the strongest people are the ones who listen, observe, and move with intention. She also wanted you to hear that reinvention is not a sign of failure. It is a sign of courage. She reinvented herself many times. Careers, countries, roles, identities. She did not cling to who she used to be. She honored it, then evolved. She believed that curiosity keeps you young, and fear keeps you stuck. So she chose curiosity. Always, there is a quiet spirituality in how she views life, even when she does not label it as such. A belief that effort matters. That integrity matters. That how you live when no one is watching shapes who you become when everyone is. She trusted that if you do the work sincerely, outcomes will eventually align. Maybe not on your timeline, but in a way that prepares you for what comes next. She wanted you to hear that motherhood is not about control. It is about guidance. About showing what resilience looks like in real time. About admitting when you are tired but continuing anyway. About letting your children see you work, fail, adapt, and try again. Strength is contagious. So is fear. She chose strength. She never tried to be extraordinary. She tried to be responsible. And that responsibility, carried over decades, became extraordinary. She wanted you to hear that greatness often grows from ordinary discipline practiced daily. Not from sudden brilliance. Not from luck alone. But from consistency when quitting would be easier. There is also this message beneath everything she has ever shared: respect yourself enough to expect respect from life. Do not tolerate what diminishes you. Do not stay small to make others comfortable. Do not abandon your standards because the world pressures you to. Self-respect is magnetic. It shapes how others treat you, but more importantly, how you treat yourself. She wanted you to hear that fear does not disappear before action. Action teaches fear its place. Waiting to feel ready is a trap. Readiness is built by doing. She lived this truth. She moved forward while uncertain. She trusted learning over perfection, even now, when people admire her elegance, her confidence, her presence. What they are really seeing is a lifetime of decisions aligned with self-belief. They are seeing the result of choosing growth over bitterness, responsibility over excuses, curiosity over fear, grace over resentment, and finally, she wanted you to hear this: you are allowed to become more than your past. You are allowed to outgrow old versions of yourself. You are allowed to take up space, to be seen, to be respected, at any age, in any season. The world does not get to decide when you peak. You do. She did not speak loudly, but she spoke clearly through her life. If you listen carefully, the message is simple and demanding at the same time: live with discipline, carry yourself with dignity, trust your inner compass, and never underestimate the power of quiet strength. That is what she wanted you to hear. She wanted you to hear that dignity is a daily practice, not a personality trait you are born with. It is built each time you choose restraint over reaction, clarity over chaos, patience over impulse. There were moments when life would have justified bitterness, when anger would have been understandable, when giving up would have been reasonable. Yet she understood something rare: bitterness ages the soul faster than time ever could. So she protected her inner world. She did not allow disappointment to define her character. She allowed it to refine it. She wanted you to hear that true attractiveness begins in how you treat yourself when no one is applauding. In the small decisions. In how you speak to yourself after a mistake. In whether you forgive yourself or punish yourself endlessly. She believed self-respect shows up in posture, in tone, in boundaries, in how you walk away from what no longer serves you. That kind of beauty does not fade. It intensifies. She also wanted you to hear that comparison is a silent thief. She lived long enough to watch trends rise and fall, standards change, applause shift direction. If she had measured her worth by comparison, she would have lost herself long ago. Instead, she chose alignment. She measured herself by effort, by integrity, by whether she honored her responsibilities. This freed her. Comparison enslaves. Alignment liberates. There were seasons when she was invisible to the world, yet carrying everything. Providing. Supporting. Holding things together quietly. She wanted you to hear that invisibility does not mean insignificance. Some of the most important work happens where no one is watching. Foundations are poured underground. Roots grow in darkness. And when the visible success arrives, it is only revealing what has been built patiently for years. She wanted you to hear that discipline is not punishment, it is self-love in action. Getting up when you don't feel like it. Preparing when others procrastinate. Learning when entertainment would be easier. She did not wait for motivation. She respected commitment more than mood. And over time, that discipline created freedom. Freedom from panic. Freedom from dependency. Freedom from regret. She understood that strength and softness are not opposites. You can be firm without being cruel. You can be kind without being weak. You can be elegant and resilient at the same time. She carried both. She corrected without humiliating. She guided without controlling. She supported without smothering. This balance is rare, and it is powerful. She wanted you to hear that life will test your identity before it rewards your effort. You will be misunderstood. Reduced to labels. Defined by others' assumptions. If you fight every misinterpretation, you will exhaust yourself. She chose something wiser. She focused on becoming undeniable through consistency. When your work speaks clearly, explanations become unnecessary. She knew that confidence is quiet because it does not need witnesses. Insecure people announce themselves. Grounded people move calmly. She did not need to prove her relevance. She lived it. And that calm certainty became magnetic. People lean toward those who are at peace with themselves. She wanted you to hear that resilience does not mean never feeling pain. It means not allowing pain to decide your future. She felt exhaustion. She felt fear. She felt uncertainty. But she did not hand them authority over her choices. She acknowledged them. Then kept moving. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to act despite it. She believed that responsibility shapes character faster than comfort ever could. Comfort makes you passive. Responsibility sharpens you. It teaches prioritization. It teaches sacrifice. It teaches foresight. She accepted responsibility not because it was easy, but because it was necessary. And in doing so, she became someone others could rely on. Reliability is rare. It is also deeply attractive. She wanted you to hear that reinvention requires humility. You must be willing to be a beginner again. To learn from younger people. To adapt without resentment. To let go of outdated identities. She did not cling to relevance, she stayed useful. And usefulness, paired with wisdom, keeps you timeless. She also wanted you to hear that elegance is not about luxury, it is about restraint. Knowing when not to speak. When not to react. When not to prove yourself. True elegance leaves room for others while remaining firmly rooted in self-worth. It is calm, not performative. There is something deeply grounding in the way she viewed success. She did not worship it. She respected it. She saw success as a tool, not an identity. This protected her from arrogance and from emptiness. When success does not define you, losing it does not destroy you. She wanted you to hear that your children, your legacy, your influence will remember how you lived far more than what you achieved. Titles fade. Character echoes. The way you handle pressure. The way you treat people when stressed. The way you recover from setbacks. These are the lessons that last. She understood that life is not fair, but it is responsive. It responds to effort, to consistency, to courage. Maybe not immediately. Maybe not publicly. But inevitably. She trusted that showing up honestly would compound over time. And it did. She wanted you to hear that patience is not passivity. It is strategic endurance. Knowing when to wait. When to act. When to conserve energy. When to push forward. Impatience wastes strength. Patience multiplies it. She wanted you to hear that you do not owe the world perfection. You owe it sincerity. You owe yourself effort. You owe your future discipline. That is enough. That is powerful, and beneath all of this, there is a quieter message she carried without announcing it. You are allowed to admire strength in yourself. You are allowed to feel proud of survival. You are allowed to recognize your own growth without guilt. Confidence does not make you selfish. It makes you stable. She lived in a way that said, without words, that becoming is a lifelong process. That identity is fluid. That strength deepens with time. That attractiveness matures into presence. And that the most powerful voice you will ever develop is the one that does not need to shout. This is what she wanted you to hear, not as advice shouted from a stage, but as truth lived patiently over decades. She wanted you to hear, in the quietest way possible, that peace is the ultimate form of success. Not the kind of peace that comes from avoiding responsibility, but the kind that comes from knowing you faced life honestly. She carried this peace because she stopped trying to control outcomes and focused instead on controlling her character. When you know you did your best with what you had, regret loses its grip. She wanted you to hear that self-worth cannot be outsourced. If you wait for the world to validate you, you will always be vulnerable to its moods. Praise will lift you too high, criticism will cut you too deep. She learned to anchor herself internally. Approval became pleasant, not necessary. Disapproval became information, not identity. This inner anchoring is what made her unshakable. She wanted you to hear that the most attractive quality a person can possess is steadiness. In a world addicted to drama, emotional regulation becomes rare. She did not allow chaos to pull her into reaction. She responded thoughtfully, calmly. This steadiness made people feel safe around her. Safety creates trust. Trust creates influence. She understood that sacrifice, when chosen consciously, does not diminish you. It sharpens you. There were times she set aside personal comfort for responsibility, ambition for stability, ego for endurance. She did not see this as loss. She saw it as investment. And every investment eventually returned with interest. She wanted you to hear that loneliness does not mean failure. Some seasons require solitude so clarity can emerge. She learned to sit with herself without distraction. To listen. To reflect. To refine. Loneliness used correctly becomes wisdom. Avoided, it becomes noise. She wanted you to hear that resilience is built through repetition. You do not wake up strong one day. You become strong by choosing courage repeatedly, even when it feels ordinary, even when it feels unnoticed. Small acts of discipline compound into formidable strength. She also wanted you to hear that your past does not disqualify you from dignity. Survival stories do not weaken your elegance, they deepen it. The grace you see in her presence was not inherited. It was earned. Through hardship. Through restraint. Through refusing to become hardened by what she endured, she wanted you to hear that femininity, strength, intelligence, and authority can coexist without conflict. You do not need to shrink one part of yourself to amplify another. She never believed in fragmentation. She believed in wholeness. This integration is what made her presence compelling. She understood that the world often mistakes noise for power and speed for progress. She chose a different rhythm. A slower, deliberate pace that allowed wisdom to catch up with ambition. She trusted timing more than urgency. This protected her from burnout and bitterness. She wanted you to hear that influence does not require dominance. You do not have to overpower others to leave a mark. Sometimes influence is simply living so authentically that others feel permission to do the same. Her life quietly gave people that permission. She wanted you to hear that boundaries are not walls, they are doors with locks. They decide what enters your life and what does not. She guarded her energy carefully. Not everyone deserved access. Not every opinion deserved attention. This selectivity preserved her clarity. She also wanted you to hear that forgiveness is a form of freedom, not endorsement. Holding resentment would have chained her to the past. Letting go allowed her to move forward unburdened. Forgiveness was not weakness. It was strategic release. She believed deeply that responsibility is the birthplace of meaning. When you take responsibility for your life, even imperfectly, meaning emerges naturally. Victimhood shrinks the soul. Responsibility expands it. She chose expansion. She wanted you to hear that elegance is not about perfection, it is about composure when things go wrong. Anyone can appear confident when life is smooth. True elegance reveals itself under pressure. In disappointment. In loss. In uncertainty. That is where her presence became most powerful. She wanted you to hear that you are not late. Life unfolds in layers, not deadlines. She bloomed publicly later than many, yet her impact was timeless. Timing is personal. Comparison distorts it. Trust restores it. She wanted you to hear that discipline today is kindness to your future self. Every boundary you set, every skill you build, every habit you protect is an act of love toward who you are becoming. She lived with this long view, and beneath everything, there was one final, unspoken message she carried. You are allowed to stand calmly in who you are without apology. You do not need to explain your worth. You do not need to perform your confidence. You do not need to chase relevance. Become solid. Become grounded. Become consistent. Let your life speak. She did not finally speak with words meant to impress. She spoke through decades of alignment between belief and behavior. If you listen closely, what you hear is not instruction, but invitation. An invitation to live with dignity. To grow without bitterness. To age without fear. To succeed without losing yourself.